They ripped the kid right out of my arms. I was crying. He was crying. He was just 12 years old and kept yelling, "Mr. Robert, don't leave me." And there was nothing I could do. I just felt his small fingers slip off my shirt. I had just lost my wife 4 months before. That boy had given me my life back. He made me feel like I still had a purpose, that I could still take care of someone, that my old hands could still protect. The people from Child Protective Services said that a man my age couldn't be responsible for an undocumented minor, that it was illegal, and I could go to jail. My son Jeremy was standing there in the doorway, watching. And when I looked at him, begging for help with my eyes, he looked away. If this story moves you, please hit the subscribe button. Every day there's a true story that could be your own. Tell me where you're watching us from. My name is Robert Balcarcel Ledesma. I'm 78 years old and was a blacksmith for 50 years in Dallas, Texas. That Tuesday morning, I was in the kitchen with Peter. He was eating toast with peanut butter, and I had made him a cup of peppermint tea because he told me his stomach hurt. "Mr. Robert, you make the best tea in the world," he said. And he smiled. He was just 12 and had a shy laugh, as if he wasn't used to anyone treating him kindly. When the doorbell rang, we both looked at each other. "Who could that be?" he asked. I got up. "Stay here, son." But when I opened the door and saw the two women in navy blue suits with a folder under one arm, I knew they were here for him. I knew it before they even opened their mouths, and I felt something squeeze my chest. "Norberto Balcarcel Ledesma?" the older woman asked. She had short gray hair and a face that showed no emotion. "Yes, that's me." She pulled out a stamped piece of paper. "We are from Child Protective Services. We have a court order. We were informed that there is a minor living at this address without legal documentation." I opened my mouth to explain, but she raised her hand. "We need to take the child now, sir." Peter appeared behind me, barefoot, still holding his cup of tea. "Mr. Robert?" His voice trembled. I put a hand on his shoulder. "Relax, son." But the woman had already walked into my house without permission. She crouched down in front of Peter. "What's your name?" He didn't answer. He just looked at me, seeking answers that I didn't have. "His name is Peter," I said. "He is 12 years old. I found him 3 months ago sleeping under a bridge in downtown Los Angeles. He had no one." The woman wrote something without looking at me. "Are you related to this minor?" "No, but do you have guardianship, adoption, or temporary custody papers?" "No, I just wanted to help him. He was on the street and..." "Then this is illegal, Mr. Balcarcel." She closed the folder. Just then, my son, Jeremy, arrived. I saw him through the window, getting out of his silver sedan in his gray suit and leather briefcase. He walked up the steps and came in as if nothing was happening. "Dad," Child Protective Services called me. I came as soon as I heard. I looked at him. "Jeremy, help me. Tell them Peter is fine with me." My son turned his face away. "Dad, they're just doing their job." The younger woman approached Peter. "Come on. We're going to take you to a safe place." Peter backed away. "I don't want to go. I want to stay with Mr. Robert." He started to cry. He wasn't screaming. He wasn't making a scene. He just cried silently, the tears falling down his face. I knelt down in front of him and took his hands. They were small and cold. "Son, listen to me. This is temporary. I'm going to fix everything, I promise." He shook his head. "No, Mr. Robert. It always happens the same way. People take care of me for a while, and then they leave me. Everyone leaves me." Those words broke my heart. "I am not going to leave you," I told him. but the woman was already pulling him by the arm. "Sir, if you resist, we will call the police." I stood up. I looked at Jeremy. "Did you do this? Did you call Child Protective Services?" My son didn't answer. He just stood there, hands in his pockets, looking at the floor. And then I knew. It was him. I raised Jeremy alone after his mother left us when he was 8 years old. I paid for his entire college education. I helped him set up his law office. I lent him money when he was just starting out. And now he was standing there, letting them take the only child who had given me my life back since I buried my wife 4 months ago. Peter screamed when they took him out the door. "Mr. Robert, don't leave me." I tried to follow them, but Jeremy grabbed me. "Dad, let him go." I shook him off. "Let go of me." But it was too late. They had already taken him. I stood there in the doorway, watching the Child Protective Services car drive away down the street. Peter was looking out the back window, his face pressed against the glass, crying. I raised my hand as if to say, "I'll come back for you." But I don't know if he saw me. Jeremy closed the door. "Dad, it was for the best. That kid is not your responsibility." I turned around and looked at him. "For whose best, Jeremy?" He sighed. "For yours. You're 78 years old. You can't take care of a child." "I was taking good care of him," I said. "And what happens when you get sick, when you can't do it anymore? That's not your business." My son tucked his briefcase under his arm. "I have to go. We'll talk later." And he left. He left me alone in my house, with Peter's tea still warm on the table. I went into the kitchen. The toast with peanut butter was half eaten. His school backpack hung on the chair back, his math notebook open to the page where he was doing homework. I sat down in my chair. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat there, looking at that empty chair, thinking about how Peter had come into my life. 3 months ago, I was walking over the bridge in downtown Los Angeles, coming back from the city center. It was night, and it was cold. I saw a bundle covered with cardboard boxes. I went closer. It was a child, thin, dirty, with bruises on his arms. I woke him up. He jumped up, scared. "Don't hit me," he said. "It's all right, son," I told him. "Nobody's going to hit you. Are you hungry?" He looked at me suspiciously, but nodded. I took him to a diner near the bridge. I bought him a chili dog and a soda. He ate it in 2 minutes. "Do you want another one?" He nodded. I bought him 2 more. When he was done, he looked at me. "Thank you, sir." "Where's your family?" I asked. He looked down. "My grandmother died a year ago. I lived with her. Then I went to a home, but I ran away. They hit me there." I saw a scar on his arm. "Do you have anywhere to sleep tonight?" He shook his head. "Come with me. I have a spare room at my house. You can sleep there tonight. Tomorrow we'll see what we do." He hesitated. "You're not going to do anything to me?" That question hurt me. "No, son. I'm just going to give you a bed and some food. Nothing else." He accepted. And that night, Peter slept in the room that had been my daughter Nancy's. The next day he told me, "Can I stay 1 more day?" "Of course," I said. A day passed, then another, then a week. Peter started helping me with the groceries. He kept me company. He asked me questions. "Mr. Robert, did you work your whole life?" "Yes, son, I was a blacksmith." "And did you like it?" "I loved it. The hot iron, the hammer, the fire. It was hard, but it was beautiful." He smiled when I told him stories. One day he said, "Can I stay forever?" I stayed silent. "Son, I wish. But for that, I need papers. It needs to be legal. Can't you do that?" "I don't know how, son, but I'll look into it. I never did. And now they had taken him away from me, and I was alone again. I got up from the chair and went to Peter's room. His bed was made. He made it every morning without me having to ask. On the nightstand was the book I had bought him last week. It was called Peter and the Wolf. He had asked for it because he liked stories. I bought it for him at a bookstore downtown. When I gave it to him, his eyes shone. "Is this for me?" "Yes, son. It's yours." He hugged it to his chest. No one has ever given me a book before. I sat on his bed. I picked up the book. I opened it. On the first page, Peter had written in pencil, "This book belongs to Peter Balcarcel." He had used my last name. I hadn't told him to do it. He did it all by himself. And that's when I broke down. That's when I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried since I buried my wife 4 months ago. I cried for that boy who had given me my life back. I cried for the injustice of them taking him away when all I had done was care for him. I cried because my own son had betrayed me. I cried because Peter was somewhere right now, alone, thinking I had abandoned him like everyone else. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a lawyer. I didn't have any contacts. I didn't have any money. I only had these old blacksmith hands and a broken heart. But I wiped away my tears. I stood up. I left Peter's room and told myself, I'm going to bring him back. I don't know how, but I'm going to bring him back. Because Peter was the only thing I had left. I got up the next day at 6 a.m. I had barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Peter's crying face. I took a shower, shaved, and put on my blue shirt, the one my wife gave me years ago. I left the house at 7. The Child Protective Services office was downtown, near the city hall. I took 2 buses. The trip was long. I kept thinking about what I was going to tell them. Peter is fine with me. He eats well, he sleeps well, he goes to school. He doesn't lack anything. I practiced the words in my head over and over. When I arrived, there was a long line at the entrance. People with folders, mothers with children, tired men. I stood at the end. I waited 1 hour. No one offered me a seat. My legs started to hurt, but I didn't move. When it was finally my turn, a young woman attended to me behind a thick piece of glass. She was eating yogurt and looking at her cell phone screen. "How can I help you?" she asked without looking up. "I'm here about a boy," I said. "His name is Peter. They took him from my house yesterday." She put down her yogurt and typed something on the computer. "Last name of the minor?" I stayed silent. I didn't know Peter's last name. He had never told me. "I don't know his last name," I admitted. She looked at me strangely. "Are you a relative?" "No, but I was taking care of him. He was living with me." The girl sighed. "Sir, if you are not a direct relative, I cannot give you any information. It is privacy policy." I leaned toward the glass. "But I just want to know if he is okay, if he needs anything." The girl shook her head. "I cannot give you any data. If you want to start an adoption or guardianship process, you need to hire a lawyer." She handed me a paper with a phone number printed on it. "You can call here for free legal advice." I took the paper. "And when can I see him?" "I don't know, sir. It depends on the process." "But is he okay? Is he scared? Did he cry?" The girl looked at me with a mix of pity and discomfort. "Sir, I can't tell you anything. I'm sorry." Next, a woman with a baby stood behind me. I didn't move. "Please, miss, just tell me if he's okay." A guard approached. "Sir, you have to leave." I left there with the crumpled paper in my hand. Outside, I sat on a park bench and looked at the paper. I sat there for I don't know how long. I watched people pass by, everyone in a hurry, everyone with their own lives. A man was selling ice cream. 2 children were playing on the swings. A couple was kissing under a tree. And there I was, alone, not knowing what to do. I took out my cell phone and called the number on the paper. A recording answered. "You have reached the Free Legal Advice Center. Our hours of operation are Monday to Friday from 9 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon. Leave your message after the tone." I hung up. It was 11 in the morning on a Wednesday. Why weren't they answering? I called again. Same recording. I left a message. "My name is Norberto Balcarcel. A child I was caring for was taken from me. I need help. My number is..." I gave my number. I hung up. And I waited. No one called me back that day. I went back to my neighborhood in the afternoon. I was hungry, but I didn't want to eat. I needed to buy bread because I hadn't eaten all day. I went to Mr. Henry's grocery store. Mr. Henry had been my friend for 30 years. When I had the blacksmith shop, he would buy locks and tools from me. When his wife died, I went to the funeral. When his grandson was born, I gave him a crib that I made with my own hands. We were true friends, or so I thought. I entered the store. Mr. Henry was behind the counter, arranging cigarettes. When he saw me, his face changed. "Robert." His voice sounded strange. "Hi, Henry. Give me a pound of bread, please." He went to get the bread without saying anything. The silence was awkward. When he came back with the bread, he put it on the counter, but he didn't look me in the eyes. "That'll be $2. I gave him the money. I took the bread. I was about to leave, but I stopped. "Henry, is something wrong?" He scratched the back of his neck. He was silent for a moment. Then he lowered his voice. "Robert, look, people are talking." I frowned. "Talking about what?" He looked out towards the street, as if he didn't want anyone to hear him. "About the boy. That Child Protective Services took him. That there was something strange going on." I felt a sharp pain in my stomach. "Something strange?" "Henry, I was just taking care of him. The kid had no one." Mr. Henry raised his hands. "I believe you, Robert. But you know how people are. They talk. And what are they saying?" He hesitated. "That there must be a reason they took him. That an older man with a child who is not family. Well, you know." I left the store with the bread under my arm, and I felt the stairs. Mrs. Eleanor, my neighbor across the street, was at her window. When she saw me, she quickly closed the curtain. The guys on the corner stopped talking when I walked past. One muttered something, and the other laughed. I quickened my pace. Never in my life had I felt ashamed walking through my own neighborhood. I was born here. I grew up on this very street. I worked for 50 years 3 blocks from my house. Everyone knew me. When someone passed by, they would greet me. "Mr. Robert, how are you?" Now, no one greeted me. Now they looked at me out of the corner of their eyes as if I were a stranger, as if I were someone dangerous. I got to my house and locked the door. I leaned against the door, and I took a deep breath. My phone rang. It was my daughter, Nancy. She lives in New Orleans with her husband and 2 children. We don't see each other much, but we talk every week. "Dad?" Her voice sounded worried. "Hello, Nancy." There was a long silence. "Dad, Jeremy told me what happened." I gripped the phone. "Oh, yeah? And what did he tell you?" She sighed. "That they took a child from your house. That you had him living there without papers. Dad, is that true?" "Yes, it's true." "What were you thinking?" Her tone was scolding, as if I were a child who had done something wrong. "I was thinking of helping a child who had no one, Nancy. That's what I was thinking." Silence. Then she said, "Dad, I know your intentions were good, but you're 78 years old. You can't just take on a child like that." I explained everything to her. I told her how I found Peter under the bridge, how he was alone, without family, how I took him home just to give him a hot meal, and how he stayed because he had nowhere else to go. I told her that Peter made me laugh, that he asked me questions, that he filled the house with life, that ever since he arrived, I woke up with energy, that I cooked with energy, that I wanted to live again. Nancy listened in silence. When I finished, there was a long pause. "Dad, I understand you felt lonely after Mom died, but you can't replace her with a child from the street." Those words hurt me. I'm not replacing anyone, Nancy. I was just taking care of someone who needed it. Well, now Child Protective Services will take care of him better than you. I hung up without saying goodbye. I couldn't take any more. I sat down on the sofa, phone in hand. I looked around my house. Everything was silent. The wall clock read 6 o'clock in the evening. It was starting to get dark outside. I got up and went to the kitchen. Peter's toast was still on the table, his teacup empty and dry, his math notebook still open. I picked up the notebook. I looked at his handwriting. It was messy, childlike, but you could tell he was trying hard. On the last page he had written in pencil, "Mr. Robert is the best person in the world." He had written it in red pencil. I read it 3 times. And I cried again. I cried because no one believed me. I cried because everyone thought the worst of me. I cried because Peter was alone. And I cried because I didn't know how to bring him back. I didn't eat dinner that night. I went to bed early, but I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking, what was I going to do? I didn't have a lawyer. I didn't have any money. My own children had turned their backs on me. The neighborhood looked at me with suspicion. And Peter was in some temporary home, thinking I had abandoned him, that I was like everyone else, that I had used him and then left him. I closed my eyes, and I promised myself something. I promised myself that I wasn't going to give up. I promised myself that I was going to fight for that boy, even if the whole world was against me. Because Peter wasn't just a child from the street. He was my child. And I don't abandon my family. I never have. And I wasn't going to start now. The next morning, I called the Free Legal Advice Center again. This time, a woman answered. "Good morning, Legal Advice Center." I quickly explained my case. "Sir, we don't handle guardianship cases. We only provide phone guidance. You need a private attorney." She gave me 3 names. I called the first one. $5,000 retainer, he told me. I hung up. I called the second one. $4,500. I hung up. I called the third one, a man named David Miller. "It depends on the case," he told me. "Come to my office tomorrow at 3 o'clock. His office was downtown in an old building with a broken elevator. I walked up 5 flights of stairs. I was out of breath when I got to the top. I knocked on the door. "Come in." I walked in. It was a small office with a scratched wooden desk and 2 chairs. David Miller was about 40 years old, shirt without a tie, a tired face. "Have a seat, Mr. Balcarcel." I told him everything, from the beginning, how I found Peter, how he stayed with me, how Child Protective Services took him away. David listened without interrupting, taking notes in a notebook. When I finished, he put down his pencil. "Do you want to adopt him?" "Yes. Or be his legal guardian, whatever it takes to bring him back." David leaned back in his chair. He looked at me with pity. "Mr. Balcarcel, I'm going to be honest with you. At your age, it's almost impossible." I felt my chest tighten. "Why?" He sighed. You're 78 years old. The system prefers young families, stable couples. Also, how much do you receive in pension? $250 a month? David shook his head. That's very little to support a minor, according to court standards. I leaned forward. But I own my house, mortgage-free, and I can work. I still do blacksmithing work by order. David looked at me in silence. Then he opened a folder and took out some papers. Look, Mr. Balcarcel, I'm going to explain how this works. For you to be Peter's legal guardian, you have to go through medical, psychological, and social evaluations. They have to come to your house, check everything. Then the court decides whether you are suitable or not. And honestly, with your age, with your economic situation, the odds are low. I clenched my fists on my knees. What if I try anyway? David hesitated. We can try, but I'm going to charge you $500 up front, and I can't promise you anything. $500. It was almost double my pension, but I had savings. I worked 50 years as a blacksmith. I never spent much. When my wife died, I sold some old tools. I had some money saved. Okay, I said. I'll get the money. 2 days later, I went back to David's office with the cash. I counted it on his desk, $20 bills, some crumpled. He counted them and gave me a receipt. We're going to start with a request for information. I need to know what home Peter is in. Then we request visits, and at the same time, we start the guardianship process. I nodded. How long will that take? It depends on the court. It could be weeks. It could be months. Months? I can't wait months. Is there no way to speed it up? David shook his head. Mr. Balcarcel, the system is slow, and in your case, honestly, it's going to be even slower, because the court is going to be very rigorous. I left there with a knot in my stomach. David had made it clear that he didn't trust me to win, but it was the only option I had, so I was going to try. 2 weeks passed. David got the information. Peter was in a temporary home in the suburbs outside Los Angeles. I requested a visit for you, he told me over the phone. The home rejected it. They say they can only receive visits from direct relatives. I was silent. Now what? Now we wait for the court to authorize the visit. It could take another week. I hung up. Another week. 3 weeks had already passed since they took Peter. 3 weeks without seeing him, without knowing how he was doing, if he was eating well, if he was sleeping well, if anyone was treating him with kindness. I sat down on the sofa. I picked up the book I had given him, Peter and the Wolf. I opened it to the first page where he had written, "This book belongs to Peter Balcarcel." And I wondered if he still remembered me, or if he had already forgotten me. A week later, David called me. Mr. Balcarcel, I have good news. The court authorized a supervised 30-minute visit. 30 minutes. It was nothing, but it was better than nothing. When? Tomorrow at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll send you the address by text message. The next day, I took 3 buses to get to the suburbs. The home was a large house with bars on the windows and a metal gate. I rang the bell. A woman in an apron opened the door. Norberto Balcarcel? Yes, that's me. She checked a list. Come in. I'll take you to the visiting room. We went inside. The place smelled like disinfectant. There were children playing in an inner courtyard. I looked for Peter, but I didn't see him. The woman led me to a small room with a table and 2 chairs. Wait here. I'll bring the child. You have 30 minutes. I will be present for the entire visit. I sat down. My hands were trembling. The door opened and Peter walked in. He was thinner. He had dark circles under his eyes. His clothes were new, but they were too big for him. He saw me and stopped in the doorway. "Peter," I said, and my voice broke. He didn't move. "Son, come here." The woman gestured to him. "Go on, sit down." Peter walked slowly and sat down across from me. He didn't look me in the eyes. "How are you, son?" Silence. "Peter, look at me. It's me, Mr. Robert." He looked up. His eyes were red. "Why did you leave me?" Those words pierced me. "I didn't leave you, son. They took you from my house. But I'm fighting to get you back." He shook his head. "You told me you wouldn't leave me. You promised me." His voice trembled. "And I'm still promising you. I'm going to bring you back." Peter looked down again. "Everyone says the same thing. Then no one comes back." I reached my hand across the table to take his, but the woman stopped me. "There can be no physical contact." I looked at her. "Not even holding his hand?" "No, sir. Those are the rules." I looked back at Peter. "Son, listen to me. I hired a lawyer. We're starting a legal process so you can come back with me. It's going to take a little while, but I'm going to make it happen." Peter looked at me with those big, tired eyes. "They treat me well here," he said. But his voice didn't sound convinced. "They treat you well?" He nodded. "They give me food. I have a bed. There are other children. But are you happy?" Silence. Then he shook his head. "No. I want to go back with you." His eyes filled with tears. "I want to sleep in my bed. I want to drink your tea. I want you to tell me stories about when you were a blacksmith." I felt my soul breaking. "And you will come back, I promise." The woman looked at her watch. "You have 5 minutes left." 5 minutes. It was nothing. "Peter, I need you to tell me something. Do you have any papers, any documents, birth certificate?" He shook his head. "My grandmother had some papers. But when she died, the house was locked up. I couldn't get anything out." "And where did your grandmother live?" "In an old neighborhood of Los Angeles, near the clinic." I took out a paper and pencil from my pocket. "Do you remember the address?" Peter thought. "Gabriela Mistral Street. I don't remember the number, but the house was light blue with a white fence." I wrote everything down. David had told me we needed Peter's documents, his birth certificate, his mother's, his grandmother's, everything. "Do you remember your grandmother's full name?" "Rose. Rose Balcarcel." I stopped writing. "Balcarcel?" Peter nodded. "Like you, Mr. Robert." I felt a chill. The woman stood up. "Time is up, sir." I looked at Peter. "Son, I'm coming back, I promise you." Peter slowly got up. "When?" "I don't know, son. As soon as I can." The woman led him toward the door. Peter turned around one last time. "Mr. Robert, don't forget me. I will never forget you." And he left. The door closed. I stayed seated there with the paper in my hand. Rose Balcarcel. My sister's name was Rose. She died 40 years ago when I was 38. She was 20. She left home at 18 after a fight with my father. I looked for her, but I never found her. I never knew what became of her life. What if... No. It couldn't be. It was just a coincidence. Balcarcel is a common last name. I left the home walking like a zombie. I sat down at a bus stop. I took out the paper again. Rose Balcarcel. Gabriela Mistral Street. Old Los Angeles neighborhood. Light blue house with a white fence. I grabbed my cell phone and called David. "Attorney, I need you to look into something. Peter's grandmother's last name was Balcarcel. Rose Balcarcel. She lived in that old part of Los Angeles. I had a sister with the same name. I need to know if it's the same person." David was silent for a moment. Mr. Balcarcel, if Peter is your great-nephew, that changes everything. You would have direct family rights. I closed my eyes. That's why I need to know. I'll investigate. Give me a few days. I hung up, and I stayed sitting there, looking at the paper, feeling that something very big was about to be revealed. Something that could change everything, or break me even more. 3 days later, while waiting for news from David, someone knocked on my door. It was Mrs. Helen, my neighbor. She is 68 years old and has lived alone since her husband died. She was always kind to me. "Robert, can I come in?" "Of course, Mrs. Helen, come in." We went into the kitchen. I offered her tea, but she shook her head. She sat down and looked at me seriously. "Robert, I have to tell you something, and I don't know how to say it." I sat down across from her. "Just tell me, Mrs. Helen." She took a deep breath. "About a month ago, I saw your son Jeremy talking to a woman on the corner. I didn't think anything of it at the time. But later, when they took Peter, I remembered something. That woman was wearing a blue suit jacket, like the Child Protective Services people." I froze. "Are you sure?" "Yes, Robert, I'm sure. I was watering my plants and I saw them. They were talking for about 10 minutes. I felt something twist in my stomach." "And why didn't you tell me before?" Mrs. Helen looked down. "Because I didn't want to get involved. And because I wasn't sure it was important. But now, with everything that happened, I realized that Jeremy was the one who made the complaint." I clenched my fists. "Did you see anything else?" "I saw Jeremy give her some papers, and she put them in a folder. Papers, documents, my own address, Peter's name, everything they needed to come and get him." I stood up. "Thank you for telling me, Mrs. Helen." She stood up too. "Robert, be careful. Your son is not playing fair." She left my house. I stood in the kitchen, trembling, not from the cold, but from rage. My own son had betrayed me, and I needed to hear it from his mouth. I took a taxi. I couldn't wait. I went straight to Jeremy's office. It's in downtown, in a tall glass building. I went up to the 12th floor. The receptionist stopped me. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but I'm his father." She hesitated. Then she picked up the phone. "Mr. Balcarcel, your father is here." She listened. "Yes, sir." She hung up. "You can go in. Last office on the left." I walked down the hall. My heart was pounding. I opened the door without knocking. Jeremy was sitting behind a huge desk with a computer, books, and pictures on the wall. He looked up. "Dad, what are you doing here?" I closed the door. "I came to ask you something, and I want you to tell me the truth." Jeremy put down his pencil. "What are you talking about?" I took a step toward his desk. "Was it you who called Child Protective Services?" Jeremy was silent. His face showed nothing. Then he sighed and leaned back in his chair. "Yes, it was me." He said it just like that, without shame, without regret. I felt everything crashing down. "Why?" My voice came out as a whisper. Jeremy stood up and walked over to the window. "Because I did it for your own good, Dad." "Trouble?" "I was just taking care of him." Jeremy turned around. "You can't take care of a child. You're 78 years old. What if you get sick? What if you fall? What if something happens to you? That child would be abandoned again. And you would end up in the hospital, or worse." I shook my head. "That's not your decision, Jeremy. It's my life, my house, my decision. Your decision was putting everything at risk." "Everything what?" Jeremy looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something in his eyes. Something cold. "Dad, You have a house. You have savings. You have properties. If that kid stayed with you, sooner or later you would want to adopt him. And then, when you die, that child would inherit part of what Grandpa left you. There it was, the truth. This is about the inheritance, I said. Jeremy raised his hands. It's not just that. It's because you're not thinking clearly. Mom died 4 months ago and you're still grieving. You found that kid and you clung to him because you felt lonely. But that's not love, Dad. That's desperation. I felt a knife stab my chest. Don't you dare tell me what love is. I know what I feel for Peter, and what I feel is more real than anything you've ever felt in your life. Jeremy closed his eyes. Then he opened a drawer in his desk and took out a folder. He put it on the table. Dad, I have documents here that prove your mental health is deteriorating. Medical certificates that say you have episodes of confusion. Testimonies from neighbors who say you talk to yourself. If you insist on bringing that child back, I'm going to use this against you, and I'm going to have you declared incompetent. I grabbed the folder and opened it. They were papers, reports, fake certificates, all invented. This is a lie. Jeremy didn't say anything. He just looked at me. This is a lie, and you know it, I repeated. My voice trembled. Dad, it's for your own good. Let that child go. Forget about him. Live the rest of your life in peace. I closed the folder. And what if I don't? Then I'm going to fight you. And I'm going to win. I put the folder back on his desk. I looked him straight in the eyes. Jeremy, I raised you alone after your mother left us. You were 8 years old. Do you remember? I woke you up at 6 in the morning to take you to school before going to the blacksmith shop. I helped you with your homework at night, even though I was exhausted. I paid for your entire college education. I sold tools. I sold my car. I sold whatever was necessary so you could go to school. And when you graduated as a lawyer, I was in the front row applauding, crying with pride. My voice broke. And now you come here to threaten me. You come here to tell me that I'm going to fight my own son to take care of a child who only wants a family. Jeremy looked away. Dad, I love you too. But this is not about love. This is about what's right. Right for whom? Silence. Right for Peter or right for you? Jeremy clenched his jaw. Dad, I think you should leave. Are you kicking me out? I'm asking you to leave before we say things we're going to regret. I took a step toward him. I'm not going to regret anything. I know who I am. I know what I did for you. And I know that if your mother were alive, she would be ashamed of what you've become. Those words hit him. I saw it on his face. But he didn't move. He didn't say anything. He just pursed his lips. I grabbed the folder. I'm taking this, because if you threaten me with lies, I can also have evidence. Jeremy didn't try to stop me. I left his office. I closed the door softly, and I walked down the hallway feeling like I had just lost my son forever. I took the elevator down. I left the building. The sun hit my face. I walked aimlessly through the streets of downtown. People rushed past me, talking on the phone, drinking coffee. And there I was, with a folder full of lies in my hand, feeling that everything I had built in my life was crumbling. My son had betrayed me. My neighbors looked at me strangely. The system rejected me for being old. And Peter was alone in a home, thinking I had abandoned him. I sat down on a bench. I opened the folder again. The papers said I had mild cognitive impairment, that I talked to people who didn't exist, that I showed erratic behavior. All lies, but well-written lies, with seals, with fake signatures. Jeremy had planned all of this. He had prepared his attack in advance. My own son. If you are listening to my story, please tell me in the comments where you are watching us from. Sometimes, knowing that there is someone on the other side listening to me gives me the strength to continue. I sat there for I don't know how long, then I called David. "Attorney, my son threatened me. He has fake documents that say I'm mentally ill. He's going to use them against me if I keep fighting for Peter." David sighed. "Mr. Balcarcel, that's serious. Do you have the documents?" "I have them here with me. Bring them to me tomorrow. I'll review them. If they are fake, we can report him." "I don't want to report my son." "Then you'll have to decide what's more important, your son or Peter." I hung up. The question hung in the air. What was more important? My son who had betrayed me, or the child who had given me my life back? I returned to my house when it was already dark. I walked in and turned on the kitchen light. Everything was silent. I sat down at the table. I put the folder in front of me. I looked at it. Then I opened it and started tearing out the pages one by one. I ripped them into pieces. Little pieces of paper fell onto the table like snow. When I was done, I gathered all the pieces and threw them in the trash. I wasn't going to let Jeremy destroy me. I wasn't going to let him take away my dignity. And I wasn't going to let him separate me from Peter. Because even though the whole world was against me, even though the system rejected me, even though my own son had betrayed me, I knew one thing. I knew that Peter needed me, and I needed him. And that was all that mattered. I stood up. I took a deep breath, and I promised myself that I would keep fighting, no matter the cost. The next day, someone knocked on my door at 8 in the morning. I opened it. It was Michael Jones, my best friend. We worked together at the blacksmith shop for 30 years. He was the one who operated the big anvil while I tempered the iron. When I closed the shop 5 years ago, he retired too. He is now 73 years old, big hands like shovels, and a loyalty that never failed me. "Robert," he said, and he came in without me inviting him. He sat down at the kitchen table as if it were his own house. I heard everything. Mrs. Helen told me. I closed the door and sat down across from him. "Michael, this is a mess. My own son betrayed me." Michael slammed his fist on the table. "Your son is a scoundrel. But it doesn't matter. I saw how that kid changed your life. You're the Robert of before again, and I'm not going to let them defeat you. I don't know what else to do. We're going to fight, old man. Together." Michael took out his cell phone. "I have a nephew. His name is Arnold Stevens. He's a lawyer. He works on difficult cases for people in the neighborhood who don't have money. I told him your story, and he wants to help you." I frowned. "Michael, I already hired a lawyer. David Miller." Michael shook his head. "That guy is useless. You paid him $500, and what has he done? Nothing. Arnold is different. He's young, he has fire, and he's not going to charge you anything." "Nothing?" "Nothing. He's going to do it for free because I asked him to. And because I told him your son is a lawyer and he's playing dirty. That made him mad." I didn't know what to say. "When can I meet him?" "He's outside in my car right now." Michael stood up and opened the door. A young man got out of an old car. He must have been about 35, in jeans, a black shirt, and worn sneakers. He walked up the steps and came in. "Mr. Balcarcel," he said, and shook my hand. "I'm Arnold Stevens." The three of us sat down in the kitchen. Arnold took out a notebook and a pencil. "Tell me everything from the beginning. Don't skip anything." I told him. From the moment I found Peter to Jeremy's betrayal. Arnold took notes without interrupting. When I finished, he closed his notebook. "Okay, This is what we're going to do. First, we're going to fire David Miller. That guy is slow and expensive. Second, we're going to file a request for temporary guardianship with the family court. Third, I need you to get a full medical exam. Fourth, a psychological evaluation. Fifth, social workers will come to check your house. And sixth, we're going to get testimonies from the neighborhood that prove you are a good person. I looked at him, overwhelmed. And how long will all that take? 3 weeks, a month at most. But if we do it well, we have a real chance. Do you really think I can win? Arnold looked me straight in the eyes. Mr. Balcarcel, it's difficult, but it's not impossible, and I don't lose. Arnold stood up. One more thing. Your son is going to fight. He's going to file motions. He's going to bring witnesses. He's going to invent things. We have to be prepared. I took out my cell phone and showed him the photos I had taken of Jeremy's fake documents before tearing them up. He has this. He says he's going to file a complaint against me for mental incapacity. Arnold looked at the photos. His face became serious. This is falsification of public documents. We could file a criminal complaint against him. I don't want to report my son, Arnold nodded. I understand. But if he presents this in court, we are going to prove that it is false. We will ask for expert appraisals, graphologists, whatever is necessary. He put away his notebook. Mr. Balcarcel, I need you to trust me. I'm going to bring Peter back, I promise you. Something in his voice made me believe him. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. That same afternoon, Mrs. Helen knocked on my door again. She brought 3 more neighbors, Mr. Henry from the grocery store, Mrs. Elaine from the house on the corner, and Mr. Frank, who was a mailman. Robert, I talked to them, Mrs. Helen said. They are all going to testify in your favor. Mr. Henry approached. Robert, forgive me for treating you strangely the other day. People were talking, and I let myself be influenced. But I know who you are. I've known you for 30 years. And I'm going to tell the court that you are the best person I know. Mrs. Elaine also spoke. I saw how you cared for that child. You took him to school every morning. You bought him supplies. You cut his hair. No one with bad intentions would do that. Mr. Frank put a hand on my shoulder. Count on me, Robert. I'll testify to whatever is necessary. I felt something loosen in my chest. I wasn't alone. The following days were a whirlwind. Arnold got me an appointment with a general practitioner at a clinic. They gave me a full checkup. Blood pressure, heart, lungs, blood. For your age, you're quite well, the doctor told me. Your blood pressure is a little high, but nothing serious. He gave me a certificate. Then I went to see a psychologist, a young woman with glasses. She asked me questions. Why do you want to take care of Peter? Because he needs me, and I need him. Do you feel lonely? I did feel lonely, but Peter filled that void. And what happens when you can no longer take care of him? That question hurt me. Miss, I'm 78 years old. I don't know how much time I have left. But the time I have left, I want Peter to have a home. And after that, well, we'll see. She wrote on her computer. In the end, she told me, Mr. Balcarcel, I think you have a lot of love to give. I'm going to put that in my report. A week later, the social worker came to my house. Her name was Patricia. She was about 40 years old, serious face. She came in with a folder and started checking everything. The bathroom, the kitchen, Peter's room. She opened the closet. She checked the sheets. She looked for food in the refrigerator. She took photos with her cell phone. I followed her nervously. Is everything okay? She didn't answer. She just wrote in her folder. Then she sat down at the kitchen table. Mr. Balcarcel, I have to ask you some questions. How much do you earn a month? $250 in pension. And I do blacksmithing work by order. Sometimes I earn $100 more, sometimes nothing. Do you have any debts? No, the house is mine. I don't owe anything. Do you have savings? I have $1,500 saved. Patricia wrote, Does anyone else live here? No, just me. Do you have relatives who can help you care for Peter? I thought of Jeremy and Nancy. No, my children don't support this. Patricia looked up. Why? I explained. I told her that Jeremy was the one who reported me, that Nancy thought I was confused. Patricia listened without judging. Then she closed her folder. Mr. Balcarcel, I'm going to be honest with you. Your house is in good condition. You have space for a minor. There is food, it is tidy, it is clean. But your age is a factor against you. And the fact that your children don't support you also worries the court. I lowered my head. So I don't have a chance? Patricia stood up. I didn't say that. I said it's difficult, but I've seen harder cases turn out well. I'm going to put in my report that this house is suitable, and I'm going to recommend that you be granted temporary guardianship while the final case is resolved. I looked up. Really? She nodded. Peter needs a home, and you have a home to give him. That's what matters. She left my house. I stood in the doorway, feeling that finally something was going right. Arnold organized a meeting at my house with all the neighbors who were going to testify. Mrs. Helen, Mr. Henry, Elaine, Frank, Michael, and 3 other neighbors came. Arnold explained what they would have to say in court. They are going to ask you how you know Mr. Balcarcel, how long you've known him, if you ever saw anything suspicious, if Peter looked happy or scared. You have to be honest, but you also have to be clear. Mr. Balcarcel is a good person. Each one rehearsed their statement. Mrs. Helen said, I saw Robert with Peter every day. They went for walks. The boy was laughing. He looked clean, well-fed, happy. Mr. Henry said, Robert has always been a hard-working man, honest, family-oriented. If he decided to take care of that boy, it's because he felt it was the right thing to do. I listened to them, and my eyes filled with tears. People who had doubted me were now willing to fight for me. Arnold looked at me. Mr. Balcarcel, there's something else I need to tell you. I'm going to investigate Peter's origins. We need to know if he has living family, if he has aunts, uncles, cousins, anyone. Because if a direct relative appears, they would have priority over you. I remembered what Peter had told me. His grandmother's name was Rose Balcarcel. She lived in that old part of Los Angeles. Arnold wrote down Balcarcel. Yes, I had a sister named Rose. She died 40 years ago, but I don't know if it's the same person. Arnold looked at me intently. If Peter is your great-nephew, that changes everything. You would have automatic family rights. Guardianship would be almost certain. I felt a chill. Can you find that out? I'm going to go to the Vital Records office tomorrow, and I'm going to look for the house in that old Los Angeles neighborhood. If I find documents, we'll know the truth. I couldn't sleep that night. What if Peter really was my family? What if my sister had a daughter and I never knew it? If this story is touching your heart, leave me a comment telling me where you're watching us from. Knowing that someone is listening to me gives me the strength to continue telling it. 2 days later, Arnold called me. Mr. Balcarcel, I found something. I need you to come to my office. I rushed over. Well, rushed for a 78-year-old man. When I arrived, Arnold had papers on his desk. I got the death certificate for Rose Balcarcel. She died in 2005 in that old Los Angeles neighborhood. She was 62 years old. This is the birth certificate of Betty. She died in 2014. She left a son, Peter Balcarcel, Mr. Balcarcel, Arnold said. If this is confirmed with additional documents and Peter really is your great-nephew, the case changes completely. But we need more proof. 3 weeks were spent organizing everything. Arnold presented all the documents to the court. The medical certificates, the psychological evaluation, the social study, the neighbors' testimonies, and most importantly, the certificates proving the relationship. Peter was the son of Betty Balcarcel, granddaughter of Rose Balcarcel, my sister. That made me his great-uncle, his family, his blood. Arnold was confident. With this, the guardianship is yours, Mr. Balcarcel. The court cannot deny you the right to care for your own great-nephew. I clung to that hope. For the first time in a month and a half, I felt like I was going to get Peter back, that he was coming home, that we were going to be a family. The hearing was set for a Friday in March at 10 o'clock in the morning. Arnold told me to wear formal clothes. I put on my black suit, the one I wore to my wife's funeral. I shaved carefully. I combed my hair with gel. I had to look presentable. I arrived at the courthouse at 9:30. Arnold was already there. Michael, Mrs. Helen, Mr. Henry, and the other neighbors who were going to testify were also there. Nervous? Arnold asked me. Very. He put a hand on my shoulder. Relax, we have everything in our favor. We went into the courtroom. It was a large room with a long table, chairs, and the judge's bench at the front. Her name was Judge Mary Johnson, according to a plaque. She was about 50 years old, short hair, glasses, a serious face. We sat down. The judge was reviewing papers. Good morning, she said. We are here for the guardianship case of the minor Peter Balcarcel, requested by Mr. Norberto Balcarcel Ledesma. She looked toward us. Mr. Balcarcel? I stood up. Present, Your Honor. Please sit down. We will hear the arguments of the requesting attorney. Arnold stood up and began to speak. He explained everything. How I found Peter, how I cared for him, and most importantly, that we were family. Arnold presented the certificates. Your Honor, here are the documents that prove that Peter Balcarcel is the great-nephew of my client. This grants him automatic family rights under the Civil Code. My client not only has the desire to care for the minor, but also the legal right as a direct relative. The judge reviewed the papers. I understand. And where is the maternal family, the grandmother, aunts and uncles on the mother's side? Arnold replied, The grandmother is deceased, Your Honor, and there is no record of other living relatives on that line. The judge wrote something down. Does the minor know that Mr. Balcarcel is his great-uncle? No, Your Honor. We just discovered it 3 weeks ago. The judge looked at me. Mr. Balcarcel, please stand up. I stood up. My legs were shaking. Are you in physical and mental condition to take care of a 12-year-old minor? Yes, Your Honor. I am 78 years old, but I am healthy. The doctors examined me. I am fine. And financially? I have a pension, savings, and I own my house. The judge reviewed more papers. I see here favorable medical reports, a positive psychological evaluation, a social study recommending temporary guardianship, and testimonies from neighbors who speak highly of you. I felt my heart beating faster. I also see that the minor was in your care for 3 months and was removed due to lack of legal documentation, not due to abuse or neglect. Arnold intervened. That is correct, Your Honor. My client acted in good faith. He did not know that he needed formal documentation, but we are here now to do things correctly. The judge nodded. Very well. I will hear the witnesses. Mrs. Helen Williams, please come forward. Mrs. Helen stood up, trembling. She sat in the witness chair. The judge asked her, "How do you know Mr. Balcarcel?" "I've been his neighbor for 20 years, Your Honor." "And what can you tell me about how he treated the minor?" Mrs. Helen became emotional. "He treated him like a son. I saw them every day. The boy was laughing, playing, he was happy." Mr. Henry, Elaine, and Frank also testified. They all said the same thing, that I was a good person, that Peter was well cared for, that he looked happy. The judge listened to everything. Then she looked at Arnold. "Do you have any more witnesses?" "No, Your Honor." The judge reviewed her papers again. "Very well. Before issuing a resolution, is there any other party who wishes to intervene?" Silence. I breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed like everything had gone well. Arnold looked at me and smiled. But at that moment, the courtroom door opened, and my son Jeremy walked in. He was wearing a navy blue suit, a leather briefcase, and another man in a gray suit I didn't know. The judge looked at them. "Who are you?" Jeremy approached. "Your Honor, I am Jeremy Balcarcel, the petitioner's son. I am here to file a motion in opposition to the guardianship." I felt everything collapse. Arnold jumped up. "Your Honor, this is irregular. The deadline for filing an opposition expired a week ago." Jeremy smiled. "Your Honor, I request permission to present new evidence that has just come to my attention. Evidence that shows my father is not in a position to exercise guardianship." The judge frowned. "What kind of evidence?" Jeremy took a folder out of his briefcase. "Updated medical reports that show mild cognitive impairment in my father, and a psychiatric evaluation performed by the doctor accompanying me." The man in the gray suit nodded. Jeremy placed the papers on the judge's table. I stood up. "That's a lie. He invented those papers." The judge banged her gavel. "Order! Mr. Balcarcel, please sit down." Arnold grabbed the papers. He reviewed them quickly. His face turned pale. "Your Honor, these documents are fake. We already presented medical and psychological evaluations that show my client is perfectly fine." Jeremy raised his hand. "Your Honor, my father was evaluated a month ago. These reports are from last week. The deterioration has progressed." The judge reviewed the papers Jeremy had presented. "Doctor," she looked at the name, "Dr. Stephen Brown, you evaluated Mr. Norberto Balcarcel?" The man in the gray suit stood up. "That is correct, Your Honor. I evaluated him this Monday in my private practice. Mr. Balcarcel shows clear signs of mild cognitive impairment, frequent forgetfulness, temporal disorientation, and difficulty making complex decisions." I stood up again. "I never went to his office. I don't know him." The judge banged her gavel again. "Mr. Balcarcel, if you interrupt again, I will have you removed from the courtroom." Arnold stood up. "Your Honor, my client denies having been evaluated by this doctor. This is clearly a forgery. I demand an investigation." Jeremy took out more papers. "Your Honor, here is the appointment record, signed by my father." Arnold grabbed the paper. I looked at it. It was a signature, but it wasn't mine. It looked similar, but it wasn't mine. Arnold showed the paper to the judge. "Your Honor, this signature is fake. We can do a graphological appraisal right now." Jeremy smiled coldly. "Your Honor, my father is 78 years old. His signature has changed over time. It's normal." The judge looked at the papers. Then she looked at me. Then she looked at Jeremy. "Mr. Jeremy Balcarcel, are you a lawyer?" "Yes, Your Honor." "And are you formally opposing your father caring for his great-nephew?" "That is correct, Your Honor." because my father is not in a suitable condition, and because, as his son, I have the responsibility to ensure his well-being. Arnold exploded. This is a farce. This man reported his own father to Child Protective Services out of spite. He has a conflict of interest. The judge raised her hand. Attorneys, please control yourselves. This is a court, not a marketplace. Arnold sat down, furious. I could only look at my son, and he looked at me. No emotion, no guilt, nothing. The judge reviewed all the papers. Mine, Jeremy's. 10 minutes of silence passed. I felt like I was going to have a heart attack. Finally, the judge spoke. I have reviewed both positions. On one hand, we have favorable medical and psychological evaluations for Mr. Norberto Balcarcel. On the other hand, we have a recent psychiatric report indicating cognitive deterioration. There is an evident contradiction. Arnold stood up. Your Honor, I request that an independent evaluation be conducted by a court-appointed expert. The judge nodded. I was going to suggest it myself. I will order a new psychiatric evaluation of Mr. Norberto Balcarcel, performed by a professional appointed by this court. Until we have those results, I will postpone my decision. I felt everything fall on me. How long will that take? I asked. The judge looked at me. 4 to 6 weeks, Mr. Balcarcel. Maybe longer. 6 weeks. Almost 2 more months without Peter. The judge stood up. The hearing is adjourned. We will reconvene when we have the results of the new evaluation. She banged her gavel. Everyone stood up. I remained seated, paralyzed. Michael put a hand on my shoulder. Robert, take it easy. We'll fight this. But I didn't hear him. I only looked at Jeremy. He was putting his papers back in his briefcase. The fake doctor had already left. Jeremy closed his briefcase and walked toward the exit. He walked past me. He stopped for a second. I'm sorry, Dad, he said. But his voice didn't sound sorry. It sounded empty. He left the courtroom. I stayed there, feeling like I had just lost. That everything we had built, all the evidence, all the testimonies, everything had collapsed because of my own son's lies. Arnold sat down next to me. Mr. Balcarcel, don't give up. We're going to prove those papers are fake. But I didn't have the strength anymore. We left the courthouse. It was raining outside, a fine, cold rain. The neighbors said their goodbyes. Don't worry, Robert, it's going to work out. But their voices sounded hollow. Michael stayed with me. Old man, let's grab a drink. I shook my head. I want to go home. I took a taxi alone. I got to my house. I walked in. Everything was dark. I turned on the kitchen light. Peter's chair was still empty. His backpack was still hanging up. His notebook was still open to the same page. I sat down. And for the first time in this whole nightmare, I felt like I wouldn't be able to do it. That Jeremy was stronger. That the system was against me. That maybe Peter would never come back. I closed my eyes, and I cried. I cried out of rage. I cried out of helplessness. I cried because my son had betrayed me again. And I cried because I didn't know if I could keep fighting. But deep down, very deep down, a voice told me, don't give up. Peter needs you. And that voice was the only thing keeping me alive. 4 days passed after the hearing. 4 days in which I didn't leave my house. I didn't eat well. I didn't sleep well. I just sat there staring at the door, waiting for I don't know what. Arnold called me every day. Mr. Balcarcel, you have to eat. You have to rest. We need you to be strong for the next hearing. But I didn't have the strength. I felt defeated. Jeremy had achieved what he wanted. To plant doubt. To make the judge think I was crazy. And the worst thing was that I would have to wait 6 more weeks to prove that I wasn't. 6 weeks in which Peter would continue to think that I abandoned him. On Thursday afternoon, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me press the green button. Mr. Norberto Balcarcel? It was a woman's voice. Yes, that's me. This is Patricia Allen, the social worker who visited your house. I sat up straight. Ms. Allen, did something happen with Peter? No, he's fine, but I need you to come to my office urgently. I found something important. I took a taxi. I couldn't wait for the bus. I arrived at the Child Protective Services office in 20 minutes. Patricia was waiting for me in a small cubicle full of folders. Mr. Balcarcel, please sit down. I sat down. She had several papers on her desk. After the hearing on Friday, I kept thinking, your son presented documents that cast doubt on your mental capacity, and that seemed strange to me, too convenient. So, I decided to investigate on my own. She grabbed a folder. I went to the Vital Records office. I looked up all the information about Peter I could find. His birth certificate, his mother Betty's, his grandmother Rose's. She opened the folder and showed me the papers. I already knew them. Arnold had gotten them. Yes, ma'am. My lawyer already found those documents. Peter is my great-nephew. Patricia nodded. I know. But there's something else your lawyer didn't find. She took out another paper. It was old, yellowed. I found this in Rose Balcarcel's abandoned house in that old Los Angeles neighborhood. She handed me the paper. It was a letter, handwritten in blue ink. The handwriting was shaky, like someone very sick. Dear Robert, it began. I felt my throat close up. If you are reading this, it is because I have already died. I know we haven't spoken in over 30 years, and I know it's my fault. I left home angry with Dad and never returned. I was proud. I was foolish. But I want you to know something. I had a daughter. Her name is Betty. She is your niece, and now she has a son. His name is Peter, your great-nephew. If anything happens to me, please take care of them. They are the only good thing I left in this world. Love, your sister Rose. The letter was dated 2004, a year before Rose died. I read the letter 3 times. My hands were trembling so much I could barely hold the paper. Where did you get this? Patricia looked at me. I went to the house where Rose lived. It's abandoned, but I talked to the neighbors. They let me in. I found this letter in a closet drawer. I couldn't speak. I just looked at the words. Take care of them. My sister had asked me to take care of Peter, and I didn't even know he existed. Patricia took out more things from a bag under her desk. Photos, old, faded. I also found these. She showed me a photo. It was of Rose, young, with a baby in her arms. Written on the back of the photo, Betty, 6 months. Another photo. Rose with a girl about 10 years old. Betty's first day of school. One more. Rose older, with a young woman holding a baby. Rose, Betty, and Peter. I looked at the photo of baby Peter. He had the same big eyes, the same nose. He looked like my father. He looked like me when I was a child. Miss Allen, I said, and my voice cracked. My sister had a daughter, and I never knew it. Patricia nodded. From what I could find out, Rose got pregnant young. The father was not responsible. She raised Betty alone. She worked as a maid. They lived in that old Los Angeles neighborhood in a small house. They never had much. But Rose loved her daughter, and Betty loved her son, Peter. Until Betty died in a traffic accident when Peter was 6 years old. Then Rose took care of Peter. She raised him until she died of cancer last year. I couldn't stop looking at the photos. My sister, my niece, my great-nephew, an entire family I didn't know. Patricia continued. When Rose died, Peter was 11 years old. They sent him to a children's home, but they treated him badly there. One day he ran away, and he started living on the street until you found him. I closed my eyes. Peter had been alone for an entire year, and I didn't know it. I didn't know my great-nephew was sleeping under a bridge. I didn't know my sister had died. I didn't know anything. Why didn't Rose ever look for me? Patricia took out another letter. This one was older, from the 90s. I found this too. It's a draft of a letter Rose never sent. I read it. Robert, I have thought 1,000 times about calling you, but I'm scared. Scared that you'll reject me like Dad rejected me. Scared that you'll tell me I'm no longer your sister. I've made so many mistakes, but I want you to know that I miss you. I miss you every day. I felt something break inside me. Mr. Balcarcel, Patricia said, this changes everything legally. I looked up. What do you mean? She gathered all the papers. Your son presented documents saying that you are not mentally well. But these documents, these letters, these photos show that you and Peter have a bond that goes beyond the 3 months you lived together. You are family. Rose wanted you to take care of him. It is written in her letter. That gives enormous emotional and legal weight to your guardianship request. I grabbed Rose's letter again. Take care of them. Ms. Allen, I didn't know any of this when I found Peter. I only helped him because he was on the street. She smiled. I know, and that makes everything even more powerful. Fate brought you together, Mr. Balcarcel. You found your great-nephew without knowing who he was. You cared for him without expecting anything in return. And now that we know the truth, no one can say that you don't have the right to care for him. Patricia put everything in the folder. I'm going to present this information to the court. I'm going to attach it to my social report. And I'm going to strongly recommend that you be granted permanent guardianship. I felt like I could breathe again. Do you really think this will help? Mr. Balcarcel, this doesn't just help. This changes the case completely. Your son can no longer argue that you are a stranger trying to adopt a child from the street. You are family. You are blood. And Rose's letter is an express will that you care for Peter. No judge is going to ignore that. I stood up and shook her hand. Thank you, Ms. Allen. You don't know what this means to me. She squeezed my hand. Mr. Balcarcel, I have this job because I believe children deserve to be with people who love them. And you love Peter. That is clear. And I'm going to do everything in my power to bring you two together. I left her office with the folder under my arm, with the photos, with the letters, with the proof that Rose had asked me to take care of Peter 30 years before I even knew him. I went straight to Arnold's office. I walked in without knocking. He was eating a sandwich. Mr. Balcarcel, what happened? I showed him everything. The letters, the photos. Arnold read in silence. When he finished, he was silent for a moment. Then he said, "This is pure gold, Mr. Balcarcel. With this, we're going to bury your son." I don't want to bury my son, I said. I just want to bring Peter back. Arnold nodded. I know. But this gives us ammunition. I'm going to present everything to the judge. I'm going to ask that the hearing be moved up, that we not wait 6 weeks, that it be resolved now. Can that be done? With this evidence, yes. Because now we have documentary proof that Peter is your family, and Rose's letter is a testamentary will. Your sister asked you to take care of Peter. Legally, that carries a lot of weight. I felt that finally something was going right. When can we present this? Tomorrow. I'm going to draft an urgent brief tonight. I couldn't sleep that night. But it wasn't because of anguish. It was because of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. I took out the photos Patricia had given me. I looked at Rose, my sister. She looked happy in the photos. Despite everything, she looked happy. I looked at Betty, my niece. I never knew her. She died without me knowing she existed. And I looked at Peter, small in his grandmother's arms, in a school uniform, with a shy smile. My great-nephew, my family. I grabbed an old picture frame I had stored away. I took out the photo inside and put in one of the photos of Rose with Peter. I put it on my nightstand. "Sister," I said out loud, "forgive me for not being there, but now I'm going to take care of Peter. I promise you." And I felt something in my chest loosen, as if Rose had heard me, as if she was telling me it was okay, that she could finally rest knowing that Peter was going to be with me. The next day, Arnold presented everything to the court. I didn't go. He told me it was better if he did it alone. I waited all day at my house. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, he called me. "Mr. Balcarcel, I have news. The judge reviewed the documents. She is very impressed. She ordered that the hearing be moved up. It will be in 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Yes, and there's more. The judge also ordered that visits between you and Peter be allowed. Twice a week. 1 hour each time. Supervised. But they are visits." I felt my heart explode. I could see Peter. "Yes, the first visit is Tuesday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon at the home." I hung up, sat down, and cried. But I didn't cry from sadness. I cried from happiness. Because in 2 days, I was going to see Peter, and I was going to be able to tell him the truth, that we were family, that we always were, and that he would never be alone again. On Tuesday, I arrived at the home in the suburbs at 3:30, half an hour early. I couldn't wait. Patricia greeted me at the entrance. "Mr. Balcarcel, come in. Peter is waiting for you." We went into the same visiting room. Peter was already sitting there. When he saw me, he stood up. "Mr. Robert?" His voice sounded different, hoarser, as if he had been crying a lot. I sat down across from him. Patricia stayed in a corner. "Son, I have something to tell you. Something important." Peter looked at me with those tired eyes. "What?" I took the photos out of my pocket. I passed them across the table to him. "This is your grandmother, Rose. This is your mother, Betty. And this is you, as a baby." Peter grabbed the photos. He looked at them. "How did you get them?" "They were found in your grandmother's house." I took out another photo. "This is Rose when she was 20 years old." Peter looked at her. "She looks like my mom." "Yes. And do you know who Rose is?" Peter shook his head. I took a deep breath. "Rose was my sister. Your grandmother was my sister. Peter, you are my great-nephew. We are family." Peter looked at me as if he didn't understand. "Family?" "Yes, son. Family. That's why we have the same last name. Your grandmother Rose was my younger sister. She died without me knowing it. I never knew she had a daughter, your mother. And I never knew you existed. Until now." Peter put the photos on the table. He was silent. Then he asked, "So you found me because you knew we were family?" "No, Peter. I found you without knowing who you were. I took care of you without knowing you were my nephew. But now that I know, everything makes sense. That's why I felt from the first day that I had to take care of you, because you are my blood." Peter's eyes filled with tears. "Are we really family?" I nodded. "Really, son." I looked at Patricia. Her eyes were red too. Peter stood up. I stood up. And for the first time in 2 months, I hugged him. I hugged him tight. And he hugged me too. Crying, both of us crying. I don't want to be here anymore, Mr. Robert. I want to go home. You're coming home, son, I promise you. Now I have everything I need to bring you back. Arnold presented all the new evidence to Judge Mary Johnson. The letters from Rose, the photos, the certificates confirming the relationship. Patricia Allen presented her updated report, strongly recommending guardianship. But Jeremy didn't stay silent. 3 days after we presented everything, he filed a motion to challenge. Arnold called me. Mr. Balcarcel, your son is arguing that the letters could be fake, that there's no way to prove that Rose wrote them, and he's asking for a DNA test. I gripped the phone. A DNA test? Yes. He wants a DNA test between you and Peter to confirm the relationship. He says that until there's scientific proof, everything else is just papers that could have been invented. I felt angry. He faked medical documents, and now he's accusing me of faking letters. Arnold sighed. I know. But honestly, Mr. Balcarcel, a DNA test benefits us. It will definitively prove that Peter is your great-nephew. No one will be able to argue anything then. The judge ordered the DNA test. They set the date for Friday of that week. I arrived at the lab early. Peter arrived with Patricia half an hour later. They sat us in separate chairs. A woman in a white coat explained the procedure to us. We are going to take a saliva sample from each of you. We'll swab the inside of your cheek. It doesn't hurt. The results will be ready in 2 to 3 weeks. She started with me. I opened my mouth. She swabbed my cheek. Then she put it in a small tube with liquid. She did the same with Peter. All set. The results will be sent directly to the court. We left the lab. Peter came up to me. Mr. Robert, what if we're not family? I knelt down to his level. Son, even if the test says we're not family, you will always be my son. Because family is not just blood. It's love. And I love you as if you were my son. Peter hugged me. I love you too, Mr. Robert. 3 weeks passed. 3 endless weeks. Arnold called me every couple of days to tell me the results weren't in yet. I went to visit Peter twice a week, 1 hour each time. I brought him things, books, chocolates. One day I brought him his school backpack with all his notebooks. You saved my things? Of course, son. Your room is just the way you left it, waiting for you. Peter smiled, a genuine smile, for the first time in a long time. Are you going to teach me blacksmithing when I come back? I'll teach you everything I know. And are we going to have peppermint tea in the mornings? Every day, son. Peter looked at me with hope, and I did everything possible not to let him down. But at night, when I was alone in my house, fear crept in. What if the test was negative? What if there was a mistake? What if Rose wasn't really my sister? But then I looked at the photos. I looked at the letter, and I knew it was real. It had to be real. On Wednesday of the 3rd week, Arnold called me, yelling, Mr. Balcarcel, the results are in. I almost fell out of my chair. And what do they say? Relationship confirmed. 99.9% probability that you and Peter are great-uncle and great-nephew. I closed my eyes. Thank God. Thank you. What happens now? Now we present the results to the court, and we request a final hearing. With this, Mr. Balcarcel, your son has nothing left. The game is over. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time in 2 months. Peter was my family, Scientifically proven. No one could say otherwise, not even Jeremy. Arnold presented the results to the court the next day. The judge set the final hearing for 2 weeks later. "It's the last hearing," Arnold told me. "Everything is decided there. Either you win or your son wins. But I assure you, we're going to win." I wanted to believe him. But I had learned not to celebrate victory too soon. I went to visit Peter that Friday. When I entered the room, he stood up and ran toward me. Patricia didn't stop him. He hugged me tight. "Is it true, Mr. Robert? Did the test confirm that we're family?" "It's true, son. You're my great-nephew, officially." Peter cried on my shoulder. "I always wanted to have family. When my grandmother died, I thought I was going to be alone forever. And now, I have an uncle." I stroked his hair. "And I have a grandson. Well, a great-nephew. But to me, you're my grandson." We sat down. Peter held my hand on the table. Patricia smiled from her corner. "Mr. Robert, when can I go home?" "Soon, son. There's a hearing in 2 weeks. That's when the judge will decide if you can come back with me." "And what if she says no?" "She's not going to say no. We have everything in our favor. The evidence, the testimonies, the DNA, everything." Peter squeezed my hand. "I'm scared." "Me too. But we're going to be okay." The days before the hearing were strange. On one hand, I felt hope. On the other, I felt fear. Fear that something would go wrong. That Jeremy would invent something new. That the judge would decide I was too old. Michael visited me every day. "Old man, stop thinking so much. You already won. All that's left is for the judge to make it official." Mrs. Helen brought me food. "Robert, you have to eat well. You can't show up at the hearing thin and sick." Mr. Henry gave me a new shirt. "So you look presentable." The people in the neighborhood supported me. They stopped me in the street. "Mr. Balcarcel, how is everything going with the boy?" "Good, thank you. I hope you bring him home soon." I nodded. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't alone. That I had a community. That I had people who cared about me. And that gave me the strength to continue. The Monday before the hearing, Arnold called me. "Mr. Balcarcel, your son filed one last motion." I felt my stomach clench. "What now?" "He's arguing that even though you are Peter's family, your age is still an impediment. That a 78-year-old man cannot guarantee long-term stability. That Peter needs a young family who can care for him until he is an adult." I closed my eyes. "And what are we going to say in response?" "That age does not determine the capacity to love. That you have a house, stable income, acceptable health for your age. And that Peter has already chosen. He wants to be with you." Does that count? It counts? Yes. The judge can ask Peter what he wants. And if he says he wants to live with you, that weighs heavily. I took a deep breath. "All right. I trust you, Arnold." "Trust yourself, Mr. Balcarcel, and trust Peter. You two are a family, and no judge is going to separate a family." The day of the hearing arrived. I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I showered slowly. I shaved carefully. I put on the shirt Mr. Henry had given me, my best pants, my black shoes that I polished the night before. I had toast and tea for breakfast, the same peppermint tea I made for Peter. I left my house at 8 o'clock. The hearing was at 10, but I couldn't stay home waiting. I took a taxi. I arrived at the courthouse at 8:30. Arnold was already there. Michael, Mrs. Helen, Mr. Henry, Patricia Allen, all my witnesses were there too. "Ready?" Arnold asked me. "Ready?" We entered the courtroom at 9:50. The judge arrived punctually. Good morning. We are here for the guardianship case of the minor Peter Balcarcel. Case number 2025-0-312. Both parties are present. Arnold stood up. The requesting party is present, Your Honor. On the other side, Jeremy stood up. The opposing party is present. The judge looked at us. Very well, let's begin. The judge reviewed all the documents, the DNA results, the letters from Rose, the photos, the medical reports, the testimonies, everything. 30 minutes of silence passed. Then she looked up. I have reviewed all the evidence presented by both parties, and I must say that this is a very particular case. My heart was beating so fast, I thought everyone would hear it. On one hand, we have a 78-year-old man who wants to care for his great-nephew. On the other hand, we have his son who argues that age is an impediment. The judge took off her glasses. But there is something that catches my attention. Mr. Norberto Balcarcel cared for Peter for 3 months without knowing he was his family. He cared for him because he saw a child in need, and that speaks very highly of his character. Jeremy shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Furthermore, we have a letter from Rose Balcarcel, the petitioner's sister, where she expresses her desire for her brother to care for her family. That cannot be ignored. The judge continued. I have decided that before making a final resolution, I want to hear the minor. She stood up. I will bring Peter into this courtroom, and I will ask him what he wants. Because in the end, this is about him. She left through a side door. I looked at Arnold. He nodded. Relax. Jeremy was staring straight ahead, expressionless. 5 minutes later, the door opened, and Peter walked in, with Patricia. The boy looked around. He saw me. His eyes lit up. The judge motioned for him to sit in a chair in front of her. Hello, Peter. I am Judge Mary Johnson. Do you know why you are here? Peter nodded. Because you're going to decide if I can go back to live with Mr. Robert. That's right. And before I decide, I want to ask you something. Do you want to live with Mr. Robert? Peter looked at me. I smiled at him. He turned back to the judge, and in a firm, clear voice, he said, Yes, Your Honor. He is my family, and I want to be with my family. The judge looked at Peter. Why do you want to live with him? Peter was silent for a moment. Then he spoke, and his voice was trembling, but it was firm. Because when everyone left me, he took me in. When I was sleeping on the bridge, cold and hungry, he took me to his house. He gave me food. He gave me a bed. He treated me as if I were his son. And now I know we are family. But even if we weren't, he's the only person in the world who has truly loved me. I felt my throat close up. Peter continued. They treat me well at the home. They give me food. I have a bed. But it's not my home. My home is with Mr. Robert, drinking tea in the morning, learning blacksmithing, listening to his stories. He makes me feel like I matter, that I'm not invisible. The judge wrote something down. And aren't you worried that Mr. Robert is old? That he might get sick? Peter looked her straight in the eyes. He's 78 years old. I'm 12. Maybe we won't be able to be together for 30 years. But I'd rather be with him for 10 years than be alone my whole life. Jeremy stood up. Your Honor, with all due respect, the minor does not have the maturity to make this decision. He is a child. He cannot understand the long-term implications. Peter turned to Jeremy. I know what it's like to be alone. I slept on the street for an entire year. I saw things you will never see, and I know who loves me and who doesn't. Jeremy clenched his jaw. Your Honor, I insist that my father does not have the physical or financial capacity to raise a minor. The judge raised her hand. Mr. Jeremy Balcarcel, I have reviewed all your arguments, and I have seen that you presented fake documents about your father's mental health. Documents that were discredited by court experts. That does not speak well of your credibility. Jeremy turned pale. Your Honor, I just wanted to protect my father. Protect him or protect your inheritance. Silence. Jeremy did not answer. The judge looked at him sternly. You may sit down. The judge called the witnesses. Mrs. Helen went first. She sat in the witness chair with trembling hands. Mrs. Helen Williams, how long have you known Mr. Norberto Balcarcel? 20 years, Your Honor. He is my neighbor. And what can you tell me about how he cared for Peter? Mrs. Helen wiped her tears with a handkerchief. I saw them every day. Mr. Robert took him to school in the mornings, bought him supplies, cut his hair, taught him things. One day, I saw Peter fall in the street and scrape his knee. Mr. Robert knelt down, and believe me, at his age, kneeling hurts. And he cleaned the wound with such care, as if it were the most important thing in the world. That is not something someone who just wants something from the child does. That is something someone who loves does. The judge nodded. Thank you, Mrs. Williams. She stood up and looked at me before leaving. Her eyes said, we did it. Next came Michael, my lifelong friend. He sat down with the confidence he always had. Mr. Michael Jones. How long have you known Norberto? 50 years, Your Honor. We worked together at the blacksmith shop for 30 years. And can you speak about his mental state? Michael smiled. Mr. Robert is the most lucid man I know. He knows exactly what he's doing. He has a memory like an elephant. He remembers things I've already forgotten. And his son says he's confused. But the only one confused here is Jeremy, confused about what it means to be family. The judge raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? I mean that Robert raised that boy alone, paid for everything for him, gave him everything, and now Jeremy repays him with betrayal because he's afraid of losing money. But Mr. Robert is not raising Peter for money. He's raising him for love. And love cannot be faked in a document, Your Honor. Michael stood up. That's all I have to say. He sat back down next to me. He put a hand on my shoulder. Other witnesses followed, Mr. Henry, Mrs. Elaine, Mr. Frank. Patricia Allen, the social worker, also testified. I have visited many homes in my career. I've seen everything, and I can say with total certainty that Mr. Norberto Balcarcel's house is a home. Not just a house, a home. There is love, there is care, there is space for Peter to grow. And after investigating the family history, I am convinced that Peter is exactly where he needs to be. The judge listened to everything in silence. She took notes. From time to time she looked at Peter, who was sitting next to Patricia. Then she looked at me, and then she looked at Jeremy. I didn't know what she was thinking. Her face showed nothing. When all the testimonies were finished, the judge said, Mr. Norberto Balcarcel, please stand up. I stood up. My legs were shaking. I want you to answer something with complete honesty. Yes, Your Honor. Why do you want this responsibility at your age? I took a deep breath. It was the question everyone had asked me, the question I had asked myself 100 times. Your Honor, I am 78 years old. My wife died 6 months ago. My children have their own lives. When she died, I was left alone in that big house. And every day I wondered why I should get up, why I was still alive. I didn't have an answer. I paused. Until I found Peter. And that boy gave me my life back. He gave me a reason to get up, to cook, to clean the house, to go out into the street. He made me feel like I still had a purpose, that I could still care for someone, that I could still be important to someone. I looked at Peter. He was looking at me with shiny eyes. And then I discovered that we were family. That my sister, who left home 60 years ago and whom I never saw again, had asked me in a letter to take care of her family. And I couldn't keep that promise when she was alive. But I can keep it now. The judge looked at me intently. And are you not worried that in a few years you will no longer be able to care for him? Of course I'm worried, Your Honor. But life doesn't come with guarantees. I can live 10 more years, or I can die tomorrow. Peter might need me for 5 years, or he might need me until he's an adult. I don't know. What I do know is that he needs me now, and I am here, alive, willing to care for him, with a house, with love, and I am not going to let my age be an excuse to abandon him. The judge nodded. Is there anything else you would like to add? I looked at Jeremy. He was looking at me with that cold face I no longer recognized. Yes, Your Honor. I want to say that true family does not abandon. True family does not betray. And true family does not put money before love. I don't know what will happen in 10 years. But I know that Peter will grow up knowing that he had someone who loved him with all their heart. And that is more than many children have. I sat down. The courtroom was silent. The judge wrote something down. Then she looked at Jeremy. Mr. Jeremy Balcarcel, do you want to add anything? Jeremy stood up. Your Honor, I just want the best for my father. The judge interrupted him. Do you, really? Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you want the best for yourself. You reported your own father to Child Protective Services. You presented fake documents. You tried to discredit him in this courtroom. And all for what? To prevent him from caring for a child who is his family. It does not seem to me that you are acting out of love, Mr. Balcarcel. It seems to me that you are acting out of self-interest. Jeremy clenched his lips. Your Honor, with all due respect. No, sir. There is no respect in what you did, and this court will not reward that behavior. Jeremy sat down. His face was red. I felt something strange in my chest. It wasn't happiness. It was sadness. Sadness for my son, for what he had become. The judge gathered all her papers. Very well. I will take a 15-minute recess. When I return, I will deliver my resolution. She stood up and left through the side door. We all remained silent. Arnold looked at me. You did well. I couldn't speak. Peter approached with Patricia. Mr. Robert, do you think I'll be able to come back? I took his hand. Yes, son, I'm sure. But inside I wasn't sure of anything. Michael gave me water. Drink, old man. Breathe. Mrs. Helen was praying softly. The 15 minutes felt like hours. Finally, the door opened. The judge walked in. We all stood up. Please be seated. We sat down. She opened a folder. I have reached my decision. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought my chest would explode. The judge looked at me. Then she looked at Peter. Then at Jeremy. And finally she spoke. This has been one of the most complex and emotional cases I have had to resolve in my career. On one hand, we have valid arguments about the age of the petitioner. On the other hand, we have compelling evidence that Mr. Norberto Balcarcel has demonstrated love, responsibility, and commitment to Peter. She paused. We also have scientific proof that they are family. And we have a letter from Rose Balcarcel expressing her will that her brother care for her descendants. That has a legal and emotional weight that I cannot ignore. My breathing quickened. Furthermore, I have heard the minor. And Peter has been very clear in his desire to live with Mr. Robert. And although he is a minor, his opinion matters. The judge closed the folder. Therefore, this court resolves. Legal permanent guardianship of the minor Peter Balcarcel is granted to Mr. Norberto Balcarcel Ledesma. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The guardianship is effective immediately. Peter can go home today. The courtroom erupted. Mrs. Helen cried out with joy. Michael hugged me so hard he almost suffocated me. Arnold raised his fist. "We won!" Peter ran toward me. Peter ran. I grabbed him. I lifted him up even though my arms ached. I hugged him with all my strength. "We're going home, son. We're going home." He was crying on my shoulder. "I love you, Mr. Robert." "I love you too, son. With all my heart." I looked toward where Jeremy was. He was putting his things into his briefcase. He didn't look at me. He stood up and walked toward the exit. He walked past us without saying anything, without looking at me, without looking at Peter, and left the courtroom. Maybe forever. The judge banged her gavel. "Congratulations, Mr. Balcarcel. Take good care of that boy." "I will care for him with my life, Your Honor." She smiled. For the first time in the entire hearing, she smiled. And I knew that everything had been worth it. Every tear, every humiliation, every fight. Everything had been worth it for this moment. For holding Peter in my arms. For taking him home, where he always belonged. 2 months have passed since that day. 2 months since the judge issued the ruling. 2 months since Peter came home. And now I'm here, sitting in my backyard, watching Peter file a piece of iron on the anvil I set up for him. It's Saturday morning. It's 10 o'clock. The sun is bright, but there's a cool breeze. Peter is wearing my safety glasses, which are too big for him. He has gloves I bought him at the hardware store. And he has a look of concentration on his face that reminds me of myself when I was his age. "Is that good, Mr. Robert?" I walk over. I check the piece of iron. He's filing the corners to make a padlock. "Very good, son. But you have to file in one direction only. Don't go back and forth because it will wear unevenly." He nods. He goes back to filing, now in one direction. I sit in my usual chair, the one under the orange tree, and I watch him, and I think. This is happiness. Peter goes to school Monday through Friday. He leaves at 8 in the morning. I wake him up at 7. I make him peppermint tea. Toast with avocado or butter, depending on what he asks for. Sometimes scrambled eggs. We eat breakfast together in the kitchen. We talk about everything, his homework, his friends, what he's going to learn that day. "We have a math test today," he told me yesterday. "Did you study?" "Yes, but division is hard for me." We sit down after breakfast and review. I explain it with apples. If you have 12 apples and you divide them among 3 people, how many does each person get? He thought. 4. Exactly. That's division. Peter smiled. That's easier. Now he understands better, and I feel useful. After school, he comes back at 3. We have lunch. He does his homework, and on weekends, we learn blacksmithing. It's our routine, and I like it. I like having a routine again. 3 weeks ago, Nancy came to visit us. She arrived on a Sunday afternoon with her husband and her 2 children. She knocked on the door. I opened it. "Hi, Dad." She looked uncomfortable. "Hi, Nancy." She stood in the doorway. "Can I come in?" "Of course." They came in. Peter was in the living room watching TV. When he saw Nancy, his face became serious. She sat down on the sofa. "Peter, I'm Nancy, Mr. Robert's daughter, your great aunt." Peter looked at her without saying anything. Nancy looked down. "I came to apologize, and to apologize to my dad. I didn't support you when I should have. I let Jeremy hurt you, and that was wrong." I sat down next to Peter. "Nancy, I appreciate you coming." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. Dad, forgive me. I thought Jeremy was right, that you were confused, but I was wrong. I put a hand on her shoulder. It's over, daughter. She cried. Her children, my grandchildren, shyly approached Peter. Do you want to play? Peter looked at them and nodded. They went out to the backyard. Jeremy hasn't been back. I haven't seen him since the day of the hearing. He hasn't called me. He hasn't come to the house. It's as if I died to him, or as if he died to me. Sometimes I think about him. I wonder if he's okay, if he regrets it, if he thinks about me. But then I remember everything he did, and the pain is so great that I prefer not to think. Michael tells me, "Old man, give him time, maybe he'll come back someday." Mrs. Helen says, "Some children don't understand until it's too late." I don't know what will happen. What I do know is that I'm not going to chase him. I'm not going to beg him to come back. If he ever wants to talk, I'll be here. But I'm not going to let his betrayal make me bitter. Because I have Peter. And Peter is enough. He is more than enough. Last night, Peter and I were having dinner. I made chicken soup. He loves it. We ate in silence for a while. Then he asked me, "Mr. Robert, what if you had never found me?" I put down my spoon. "Why do you ask that, son?" He shrugged. "I don't know. Sometimes I think I was very lucky. What if you had just walked past that day on the bridge? What if you hadn't woken me up?" I looked at him. "Peter, I believe things happen for a reason. I crossed that bridge because I was supposed to. I found you because I was supposed to find you. And even if we didn't know we were family, I still would have cared for you, because that's what good people do. They care for those who need it." Peter nodded. "Do you think my Grandma Rose brought us together from heaven?" I smiled. "Yes, son, I think so." He smiled too, and we continued eating dinner. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't found Peter, if I had taken another route that day. If I had just walked past, I would probably be alone in this big house, eating alone, sleeping alone, living half a life, waiting for my time to run out. But I found Peter. And Peter saved me as much as I saved him. He gave me back my desire to live. He gave me back my joy. He gave me back a reason to get up every morning. And even though people sometimes look at me strangely on the street, even though some people think a 78-year-old man shouldn't be raising a child, I know the truth. I know this is the right thing to do. I know Peter is where he needs to be, and I know I am where I need to be too. The other day, we went to the cemetery to visit my wife. And for the first time, we also visited Rose. Her grave is in another section, but I got the location. We brought flowers. Peter put the flowers on Rose's grave. "Hi, Grandma," he said. "It's me, Peter, your grandson. I'm doing well. I'm living with your brother Robert, just like you wanted." He was silent for a moment. I put a hand on his shoulder. "Thank you for asking him to take care of me. He's the best person in the world." I felt my throat close up. Then we went to my wife's grave. "Sweetheart," I told her, "I'd like you to meet Peter. He's the grandson we never had. I know you would have loved him." Peter spoke to her too. "Hello, ma'am. I know you're gone, but I want you to know that I'm going to take care of Mr. Robert. I'm not going to leave him alone." We left the cemetery with our hearts full of love, full of peace. Life is not easy. My knees still hurt. I still get tired quickly. There are still days when I wake up and my body feels heavy. But now I have a reason to get up. I have Peter. And he needs me. He needs me to make him breakfast, to check his homework, to take him to the doctor when he gets sick, to teach him blacksmithing on weekends. to tell him stories before bed. And I need him to need me. Because that keeps me alive, that keeps me strong, that gives me purpose. People say, "Mr. Robert, you are so good for taking care of that child." But I tell them, no, he's taking care of me. Because it's true. Peter takes care of me. He reminds me to take my pills. He helps me with the groceries. He asks me if I'm okay when he sees me quiet. We take care of each other. And that's what family means. I thought my life was already over. That after burying my wife, all that was left was to wait my turn. That there was nothing left for me. But I was wrong. Life gave me a second chance. It gave me Peter. It gave me the possibility of being important to someone again, of being necessary, of being loved. And even though I don't know how many years I have left, I know that every day I spend with Peter is a gift that I will not waste. I'm going to be here for him. I'm going to teach him everything I know. I'm going to give him all the love I have. And when my time comes, I'm going to leave knowing that I did something good, that I saved a child, that I gave him a home, that I gave him a family. And that's more than many people can say at the end of their lives. Peter yells to me from the backyard, "Mr. Robert, I finished the padlock. Come look." I slowly get up and walk toward the backyard. He shows me the padlock. He made it with his own hands. It's a little crooked, but it's beautiful. "It's perfect, son." He smiles proudly. "Can I paint it?" "Of course. Choose any color you want." He runs inside to get the paint. I stand there under the sun, feeling the breeze. And I think about everything that happened. About how I found Peter. About how I fought for him. About how I almost lost him. And how we finally won. We won together. Because we are family. Not because of the court papers. Not because of the DNA. But because we chose each other. I chose him. He chose me. And that's what makes a true family. Not blood, not last names, but love. The love you choose to give every day. The love that makes you get up at 7 in the morning to make peppermint tea. The love that makes you fight against everything and everyone. That love. And you who have listened to me this far, let me ask you something. Did you ever feel like your life no longer had meaning? That there was nothing left? I felt that way too. But I learned that as long as you have life, there is always time for a second chance. There is always time to love. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter what others say. If you have love to give, give it. If you see someone in need, help them. Because in the end, all that matters is what you did with the time you had. And I decided to use my time caring for Peter. And it was the best decision of my life. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel something, leave me a comment down below. Tell me how it made you feel. Tell me if you also had a second chance. And subscribe to hear more real stories that will touch your soul. Give it a like if you believe that love has no age. See you in the next story. And remember, it's never too late to start over.